My name is Lillian Lambrex,
My name is Madison Wool.
and we're just going to present on the cultural competency of healthy families during the COVID-19 pandemic.
So the purpose of this study was to identify the cultural competency of healthy family home visits during COVID-19. We identified how well the cultures of families participating in the healthy families was being respected during the COVID-19 pandemic using a survey. Our goal was to use evidence-based practice steps to answer the clinical question of how well our organization acted out cultural competency. With our manager mentor, Jane Bitney, we identified the problem.
And so we used the model for improvement with the Plan, Do, Study, Act. And so our plan consisted of evaluating the cultural competency. And then the do step was the effectiveness of the organization in several categories with overall satisfaction, frequency of topic areas discussed, length of home visits and home visitor styles, cultural competency, and overall thoughts on the program.
Going forward with that, the study portion was the graphs that reflect the most relevant data, and then the act was our recommendations such as retaining the ability to conduct visits virtually, continuing focus on cultural competency in future studies, increase specificity of information to culture of participants, and add sections related to mental health.
And so we based these recommendations on some evidence-based research articles. And so these were statewide implementation of virtual perinatal home visiting during COVID-19, which really described how Florida handled the transition to virtual visiting once it had its first case. And the program was still considered satisfactory, and the nurses and teams were able to use evidence-based practice curriculum to alleviate the pandemic-related hardships, such as scarce resources, job loss, limited supplies, food insecurity, stress, and technological limitations. And then the next study evaluated the effects of the program on postpartum depression, which is where we got our recommendation to really add a mental health component of the study. And then the third study was another Florida study of that organization. They did a really good job of evaluating their program, which really focused more on the cultural side, which was more applicable to our the cultural competency portion. And it also focused on immigration and immigrants coming to the country and the resources they were able to use. The next study was the policy and grants provided to organizations similar to this one that have gained traction in the past couple of years, and just how to utilize the resources and see if the programs truly benefit the disadvantaged mothers and babies to conclude that they do have high outcomes with really successful programs. And then the last study just highlighted the health outcomes arising from the partnerships with nurses. And so all that data really contributed to our understanding of the program and the understanding of how to evaluate it.
So the methods used were the participants in the Nebraska Maternal Infant Early Childhood Home Visiting Program. So we evaluated the experience of the clients that they had in the home visiting program by utilizing a survey tool, which is shown in the next couple of slides. We began calling on February 4th and continued through February 25th of 2021. By measuring their responses to the survey questions, we were able to determine how well the program was in accomplishing its goals in regard to cultural competency during the pandemic.
So this is an example of the survey tool that we did use. And so we have all the questions broken into sections such as the satisfaction, the frequency of topic areas discussed, length of visits and home visitor styles, cultural competency, which was our main focus, as well as just wrapping up an overall satisfaction with the program, as well as modes of communication that they used.
So these next couple of slides are just some different graphs displaying our information that we gathered. So this first one is just the basic satisfaction section. We just asked a couple of questions on their overall experience with their home visitor.
The next topic that we covered was the frequency of topic areas discussed. So in this one, we went through the questions that referred to the typical topics that you discuss in a healthy home visit, and just like safety and those kinds of questions. And as you can see, most of the topics were covered every single visit.
This next one just displays the time that each home visitor spent with their clients. So the majority of them were less than an hour or between 1 to 2 hours, with a couple of greater than 2. But every client was satisfied with the duration of their visit with their home visitor.
And then cultural competency was our main focus, as we've said before. And we asked a couple of questions. So we asked if they were respectful of race, respectful of their family culture and personal values, their parenting choices, religious decisions, the interest that the home visitors had in understanding their culture, as well as did they receive information and pamphlets that related to their family culture, as well as information in their native language. So that was really important in factoring in the goals of the cultural competency of this organization. As you can see, almost all of them were completely satisfactory. The issues that were something that we could improve on were the interest in understanding informational pamphlets and resources that were related to their family culture and information translated into every language.
So this next one is just a pie chart of just the way that they communicated with their home visitor throughout the pandemic. So the majority of them were over the phone, with a couple of them being over FaceTime or other ways such as Zoom. So majority phone for that one.
And then 86% of clients communicating with their home visitor via telephone were offered a video call. Some people just found it more convenient to converse over the telephone because they didn't have to focus the camera. They could do it while they were doing another thing. So there were a lot of people that voiced that was beneficial for them. And 14% of clients communicating with their home visitor via telephone were not offered a video call. So maybe in the future that could be something where technology could be expanded in order to offer more services with face-to-face visiting, or it could be rendered a moot point by COVID visits being just always in the home.
So this next one is just the technology effectiveness. So this is more so related to if anybody had technological issues. The majority of participants did not, and the ones that did say yes were just kind of struggling with being able to get in contact with their home visitor.
And as far as virtual versus home visits, 70% of people preferred the home visits, 3.3% preferred virtual, and 26.7% didn't care one way or the other. They had no preference between the visits.
So for this one, each client said yes to the following questions. So have the services been helped, or have the services helped them? Does your home visitor listen and understand you? And does your home visitor recognize strengths, accomplishments, and help you establish goals? And they also all stated that each of their home visitors was supportive, respectful, on time, informed, and a good listener.
So here we transition to some qualitative data. So these were some comments that we asked. What areas of your life have improved through the program, and do you have overall satisfaction? Like, what were your thoughts on the program? How has it benefited you? So we created a Wordle or word salad where words and phrases that were said more often are bigger, and then words that were said less often but still said are in the Wordle. So this is just a representation of the great job you guys are doing and how people's lives have improved through the program.
There was one question on the survey asking clients just what they would like to see added to the program or something that would have benefited them. So some of the examples that we got were diaper and food drives, children museum outings, speech assistance and other learning interventions, help with aggression, funding for emergencies, PTSD information after being in the NICU, more online tools for ages and stages, and electronic flyers.
And do you want to cover?
Yeah. So the summary of the results in the areas of the ones listed below. In the area of overall satisfaction, the overwhelming majority of clients expressed complete satisfaction. In the category of frequency of topic areas discussed, the majority of clients had conversed about each topic with their home visitor on every visit, with a small majority conversing about the topics at some visits or never. In the category of length of home visits and home visitor styles, nearly all home visits were less than 1 hour in length or 1 to 2 hours in length. In the category of cultural competency, the majority of clients discussed all topics with their home visitor, with a small majority conversing about the topics at some visits or never. And then overall, the program was very rewarding. It was enjoyable for the both of us to hear about the stories from each client and how the program has positively affected each of them.
And then from these results, we can conclude that this program is meeting their requirements and effectively impacting the clients in regard to cultural competency. Not only in that area, but the Nebraska Healthy Families organization has exceeded in reaching over 90% effectiveness in overall satisfaction, frequency of topic areas discussed, length of home visits, home visitor styles, and positive thoughts on the program. In a practical sense, this program should be continued into future years as it respects the cultural background of its participants, gives them information that aligns with their personal values, and increases their ability to raise healthy children in a culturally respectful way.
So these are just some recommendations. So we recommend that the option to remain virtual is continued in the future due to the possibility of increasing reach and efficiency since the program remained effective in these conditions. We recommend that the studies focusing on the cultural competency of the program continue as the area becomes increasingly diversified. There is still work to be done to increase the amount of participants who receive information written in their preferred language, as 7% of our participants went without and 5% didn't receive information related to their family and culture. In the future, we believe it would be beneficial to add questions related to mental health. We frequently were told this was an unhappier time for participants, and a study similar to immigrant health through the lens of home visitors, supervisors, and administrators, the Florida Maternal, Infant, and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program would provide answers to the mental well-being of the clients in this program. In the Florida study of the Maternal, Infant, and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program, they found that their visits during the pandemic benefited the population when the administrative leadership increased communication, the staff were willing and flexible, and technology limitations were realized and dealt with. Due to the high percentage of satisfaction among participants of the survey, we can conclude that the Nebraska Healthy Families Program also adopted those traits and mindset. In the Negev study, the participants reported increased self-confidence, improved parenting technique, and better communication with their partners, and increased mothers with a job. The results suggest that their program is effective in its goals across cultural boundaries when it applies similar constructs as our Healthy Families Program.
And so these were the references that we used to really conclude those recommendations. And as you can see, we talked a little bit in the first slides about what each study really did. So thank you so much for allowing us to present and study this organization. We'll open up the floor for any questions. You can comment in the chat box, and we will be receptive to answering those questions. Thank you very much.